you're often taken as a sort of symbol of rebellion, and mothers deplore the influence of the Rolling Stones because they think that the Rolling Stones are rebellious. Do you think that the society that you live in is one you ought to rebel against, or do you think you're rebelling against it?
Yes, definitely rebelling against it. I mean, not in the obvious way that a newspaper or pop sort of headline would do it, but obviously we feel there are things wrong with society, but I haven't until very recently been into this kind of discussion at all, because I haven't really felt it's been my place, or through my knowledge, which I don't think is enough, to start pontificating on these kind of subjects. I've tried to keep out of discussions on religion, such as some pop stars trying to set a good example to teenagers by being religious, or others will try and set an example by saying, you should take this kind of, I've taken these drugs or these drugs, We're trying to keep out of that. But one finds oneself, society, more or less, has pushed one into this position, never asked to be pushed into it. And Lord Parker today said you have a great responsibility. It's a responsibility which has been so much pushed upon us, rather, the influence that we have has been pushed upon us, especially during this drug thing. We was asked to make certain pronouncements on it, where this is really, all this kind of thing is really part of one's private life, Before this, I didn't really want to talk about it.
newspaper had tipped off the police that it would be worth their while to raid Richard's home for drugs on the Sunday afternoon, and the raid was carried out on that Sunday evening.
All the teenage screaming and posturing vanished at the moment Judge Block passed sentence. As he said sternly to Richard that the offence of which he'd been found guilty carried a maximum sentence of 10 years, there was a gasp of pure horror from the youngsters crowded into the public gallery. But there was a dead silence as the judge added, "You will go to prison for 1 year and you will pay £500 towards the cost of the prosecution. Go down." Richard, who earlier had talked in his evidence of what he called petty morals, went down to the cells without expression.
Do you condone, then, drug taking in private?
Condone drug taking? I don't know. It's against the law, you know. I mean, that's not necessarily... I mean, it was against the law at one point, not so long ago in the judicial history of this country, to attempt to commit suicide. And some of those people who attempted to commit suicide were put in prison. I think, looking back on it, it seems rather a barbaric law. And we might at one stage look back upon this set of laws and consider them in the same way.
London. It's years since such crowds gathered to await an appeal verdict. But this was the Rolling Stones case, with the fans out in force. When Mick Jagger was conditionally discharged and Keith Richards' sentence quashed, the pop idols drove off, the shadow of jail no longer over them. Mick held a press conference in Soho soon afterwards. Keith had chicken pox, so couldn't be there. But Marianne Faithfull was present, delighted with the verdict.
I don't propagate religious views such as some pop stars do. I don't propagate drug views such as some pop stars do. This whole sort of thing was pushed upon me.
By whom?
Well, by the mere fact I've been prosecuted, and also with Keith being prosecuted. We didn't make a public statement on religion, on drugs, or anything like that.
Hey everybody, welcome to part 6 in my Stones in the 60s album deep dive series. Today I'm going to be talking about one of the more polarizing albums in the Rolling Stones discography. Their 6th studio album. Look at that lenticular cover. Their Satanic Majesties Request. And this album was released at the end of one of the most tumultuous years the Rolling Stones would ever experience. The seeds of the Stones' legal troubles in 1967 began in early January when Mick Jagger sued the British paper The News of the World for libel after they ran an article claiming Mick had been seen at a nightclub taking Benzedrine tablets and overheard offering hashish and marijuana to several of his companions. The only problem is the reporter had actually mistaken Brian Jones for Mick Jagger. So Mick, righteously indignant, sued the paper. In apparent retaliation, the News of the World tipped off British police about a party Keith was hosting at his Redlands estate. On February 12th, police raided the party and subsequently charged Mick and Keith with drug offenses. So the year was already off to a not great start. And then in March of 1967, Brian, Mick, and Keith took a trip to Morocco with Jones's girlfriend, Anita Pallenberg, and Mick's girlfriend, Marianne Faithfull. After an abusive argument, Pallenberg left Morocco with Keith, and the two began a relationship that would lead to Brian accelerating his drug and alcohol abuse. To compound Brian's fragile mental state, his home was raided in May of 1967, and he was arrested and charged with possession of cannabis. In June, Mick was convicted of possession of 4 amphetamine tablets and sentenced to 3 months in prison. Keith was convicted of allowing marijuana to be smoked on his property and was sentenced to a year in prison. Yes, a year in prison for allowing people to smoke dope on his property. But very fortunately, in July, Mick's sentence was reduced to a conditional discharge, and Keith's conviction was overturned after a public legal battle, with many celebrities and journalists lending their support and decrying the unfair severity of their sentences. Brian's sentence was appealed, and he received a £1,000 fine and 3 years of probation. So it was not the best year for the Stones, and that definitely impacted the recording of their next album. Released on December 7th, 1967, the album's original title was Cosmic Christmas. Prior to its release, the title was changed to Their Satanic Majesties Request, which was a play on the text which appears in British passports, Her Britannic Majesty's Request. Recording sessions began almost immediately after the release of Between the Buttons at Olympic Studios in London and continued until October of 1967. A chaotic recording schedule was imposed upon them due to Mick, Keith, and Brian being tied up with court appearances and other legal obligations, fighting their drug charges. Seldom were all 5 members in the studio together, and the amount of partying and revelry that accompanied them during the recording process escalated to the point where Andrew Loog Oldham relinquished his production duties. Following the sessions, the Stones would part ways with Oldham entirely. The band continued to experiment with new sounds and instruments, including the mellotron, tabla, theremin, Jew's harp, and strings arranged by John Paul Jones. The cover was photographed by Michael Cooper and printed as a lenticular image. Originally, it was intended to take up the entire front cover. However, that proved to be cost prohibitive. So anyway, what a crazy year for the Stones, but what I consider to be a pretty rewarding album. I do like this album. Not as much as the two previous albums, but it does have a lot to offer. So let's get into the songs on their Satanic Majesties request. The opening track is Sing This All Together, which has got to be one of the most bizarre experimental songs that the Stones had recorded to date. There's some choppy piano, stabs of dissonant brass, not the strongest melody the Stones have ever written. And there's a middle section that just meanders. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's almost like they're in the studio just kind of fiddling around. I'm not a huge fan of this song. I don't hate it, but it just seems kind of half-assed and thrown together. I don't know. You may disagree, but that's my take on it anyway. Okay, so if you thought the Stones had completely lost their minds with the last track, Citadel brings us back on familiar ground. The Stones kicking out a psychedelic rocker. It's a bit garagey, very psychedelic. This is already one of my favorite songs on the record.
Go
In Another Land is a Bill Wyman composition. Apparently, he was at the studio with Glenn Johns, and the rest of the band hadn't turned up yet. And Glenn asked him, "You got any songs you want to record, Bill?" And Bill said, "As a matter of fact, I do." It was originally called Acid in the Grass, and it sounds a lot like early Pink Floyd. Bill Wyman's voice is very echoey, very flanged, probably to disguise the fact that he's not a singer. But, I mean, it's melodic. It's trippy. I do really dig this one, if nothing else, just because there's so much harpsichord in it.
In another land, where the breeze and the trees and the flowers were blue, I stood and held your hand. And the grass grew high, and the feathers floated by. I stood and held your hand, and nobody else's hand will ever do. Nobody else will do. Then I walk.
"2000 Man" is one of the more tightly constructed songs on this album. There's not that feel of loose experimentation like you get with some of the other songs here. Definitely has elements of psychedelia, and the chorus and the verses couldn't be more different from each other, but it's still a fun track with futuristic dystopian lyrics. Sing This All Together, See What Happens is sort of the Revolution 9 of this album. Either you dig it or you hate it. There's definitely an improvisational feel to this song. It reminds me a little bit of Saucer Full of Secrets from Pink Floyd. It's over 8 minutes long. I'm not sure it needed to be that long. If you had asked me what is the least Stones sounding song of all time, this has got to be a contender. It's hard to categorize this as anything other than self-indulgent, to be honest. I mean, to whose benefit is this song breaking the 8-minute barrier? In some places it sounds like a raga, but in other places it sounds like they're just picking up these instruments for the first time and trying to figure out how to play them while the recording tape is running. At the very end of the song, there's the slightest snatch of "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," slowed down beyond all recognition. Apparently that was a nod to the whole cosmic Christmas theme that the album was going to have. But if you hate this album, I would imagine it's because of a song like this.
Why don't we sing this song all together? Open our minds, let the pictures come. And if we close all our eyes together, then we will see where we all come from. Pictures of us in the circling sun. Pictures of the show that we're all on.
She's a Rainbow is one of the most joyous, jubilant songs in the Stones' entire catalog. I love this one. Nicky Hopkins is on the piano, and he does a phenomenal job. Everything works beautifully together in this song. The brass, the slightly sped up harmonies, Charlie Watts' powerful drumming, Brian Jones' experimentation. There are times when I wish the Stones had been cool enough to rise above all the flower power bullshit, but it's a song like this that makes me glad they didn't.
She's like a rainbow, coming colors in the dressed in blue. See the sky in front of you, and her face is like a sail, spoken white, so fair and pale. Have you seen a lady fair? She comes in colors everywhere. She combs her hair. She's like a rainbow, coming colors in the air. Everywhere she comes in colors. Have you seen her all in gold, like the fleeting days of old? She shoots colors all around, like the sunset going down. Have you seen the lady fair? She comes in colors everywhere.
Of all the songs on this album, The Lantern is the one that most closely resembles the material we would get on Beggar's Banquet. There's not really any wild instruments or experimental song structures or anything here. It's just a straightforward, for the most part, rock and roll song. I mean, the verses are a little trippy, but the chorus is pure, unadulterated Stones.
In our present life, hear that the stars were right. That if you are the first to go, you'll leave aside to let me know. Tell me so. Please carry the lantern light.
When people say Satanic Majesties is better than most fans give it credit for, it's a song like Gomper that really stands up and holds up. This is Brian Jones' last hurrah. It's pretty much an Eastern, Indian-flavored raga, one of the most exotic arrangements on the album. And it's a song that you have to listen to a couple times to really appreciate. You got Jones trading sitar licks with Keith Richards on guitar, and it's a little more disciplined raga than the Sing This All Together songs.
By the lake with lily flowers, while away the evening hours. To and fro she's gently gliding on the glassy lake she's riding.
Then 2,000 Light Years from Home. I love this song. It's sinister, it's claustrophobic. There's this uneasy tension throughout the entire song, heightened by Brian Jones on the mellotron. This song was written by Mick Jagger when he was serving his prison sentence, as brief as it was, even though it does have futuristic lyrics. And I love all the cool sound effects that they throw in on this song. Just a great, great rocker from the Stones with a progressive psychedelic feel to it. One of the spookiest songs that the Stones would ever record. On with the Show closes things out, much in the same way Between the Buttons was closed out by Something Happened to Me Yesterday. Kind of this cabaret, dance hall feel to it. Mick Jagger acting as MC of some bizarre kinky sex show, whatever it is. But when people say this album borrowed heavily from Sgt. Pepper, I don't see it too much, except maybe on a song like this, where there are lyrical comparisons to Sgt. Pepper or Magical Mystery Tour.
Good evening, one and all. We're all so glad to see you here. We'll play your favorite songs while you all soak up the atmosphere. We'll start with Old River, then maybe Stormy Weather, too. I'm sure you know just what to do. On with the show, good health to you.
But I actually kind of dig this song. I really do. Love it, hate it. You have to admit, the Stones took a lot of risks. This is their most experimental album by far. For better or worse, even if you hate it, you got to give them credit for going off brand and trying something completely different. So anyway, that's my take on Satanic Majesties. Let me know what you think of the album. Is it overrated? Is it underrated? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Where does it fall for you in their discography? Hope you're enjoying these videos. We got 2 left. Take care.